Welcome to Rock That Relationship, a podcast about all things relationship with Corey and Tracy.
Now let's get real and start creating relationships that rock.
Welcome, everyone, to Rock That Relationship. We are in a season talking all about navigating divorce. And we have on such a special guest today. I am so thrilled to be able to talk to Jen Mitchell-Love, who is an attorney, mediator, intuitive coach, and clearly an inspiration to Tracy, given our pre-conversation. And so we are going to have a very lively, very interesting, scintillating conversation with Jen. So thanks so much, Jen, for being here and taking your time to share with our listeners your insights, your wisdom, your opinions, your life perspectives about divorce.
Oh, I love you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to have this conversation. I'm really, really excited to share a different way of looking at divorce and approaching it completely, just in a loving way.
Oh, well, good. Just tell us a little bit about yourself. Like what is your trajectory? Like, what do you do now? What was your trajectory to get there? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, I graduated law school in 2006, and I was a litigation attorney for the first 9 years of my career. So I played the part. I did the role. What I was trained to do of representing one person in a divorce as their zealous advocate and looking out for their best interest, and their best interest only is if they were an island of one. Mm-hmm. And everything was fine, because we were trained to do that. I didn't know anything differently. And then I had children. I had 3 kids in 39 months. Bam, bam, bam. And when the third one came, it was July 2014, and I still remember it. I was in my living room, and I didn't understand energy the way that I do now, but it was an overall just epiphany, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, of I cannot do this anymore. Like, I cannot do this anymore. Mm-hmm. I do not want my children to be raised with me in this very stressful environment that is just fundamentally broken, and I think I didn't realize the bigger effect of what I was doing as litigation attorney until I had children. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm actually destroying other people's children, and I'm destroying people, and I'm destroying families by being this zealous advocate and representing one person. And so at that point, I had like 40 cases. I had my own practice. I referred them all out to attorneys that I loved and trusted. And then I became a holistic wellness life coach. And I was like, ooh, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to help coach people to help them feel great and live their greatest version of self. And then while I was taking the course, I was like, oh, wait a minute. Like, these principles could be really helpful for people when they're going through a divorce to actually learn these things about the 4 bodily selves and about energy and mindset and really eating foods that lift you up and being mindful of who you're surrounding with and what you're watching and stuff. So at that point, I was a mediator when I stopped litigating, but my caseload was like 98 litigation, 2% mediation. And all of my litigation friends, when I was leaving, I was like, you know what? I'm thinking of just doing a mediation practice, and all of them said
they freaked out.
Oh, totally, Tracy. They're like, all of them said the same thing. They're like, Jen, you cannot do that. Litigation is the bread and butter of a family law practice. And I was like, you know what? I reject that.
Oh, yeah.
I think maybe that's your belief, but I don't have that as my belief. And so 10 years ago, I shifted to 100% mediation. And in this space, so my practice is called Solace Divorce Mediation, and I'm still a licensed attorney. I still keep up on my continuing education credits, but I do not practice in that broken system. Now I'm outside of it, and outside of it, I can work with both people. So I can, my whole, perspective has changed. Now I can work with both people. And at Solace, we're talking, where we're at now is just so fun, because I remember the first time, I did it this way with these, beautiful holistic coaching into it. I gifted my first clients a bottle of essential oil. And I remember being like, oh my gosh, like, that's so wild. I can't believe I just did that as an attorney. Right. And now I'm talking to my clients about soul contracts and life purpose and your children choose you. And so I really help guide my couples through the journey in a very mindful way. You know, it's very intentional. We're setting intentions for the relationship, you know, to be the next relationship space. We're setting intentions for the children. They're setting intentions for themselves of what they want, you know, to receive in this container. And we don't have all the stresses that Tracy, you know, intimately well. And Corey, I'm sure you do from being friends. You know what I mean? It's
yes. And I try to spare her from a lot of the details and other people, right? I was just talking to my ex who left a really toxic job at a prison. She's a nurse. And I was like, well, I've got to go. I can't do this anymore. And it's affecting my life so much. But what's so interesting is like, I'm looking at you left that 10 years ago. I'm about to. I've done this for 9 months, but I was a police officer for 8 years, and I was a domestic violence shelter advocate. So I've lived in this toxic places, and I try and do as much of that with my clients, and I talk to them about all of the stuff of like, what is it that's going to bring you peace? What is it going to be? But then there are just some cases where it's just, get this money, get it done, get it this, and I can't do it. And I got a talking to last night by my managing attorney about my cases. And so I'm at a point where I just I need to leave. And I'm terrified to leave, right? Because it is good money. And if you talk to any other attorney or anybody who knows you have a law degree and they're like, what are you doing? You need to work as a lawyer. Yes. But working as a lawyer, I don't think is like ultimately great for your personhood, unless you're a civil rights attorney or something like that. And I've done a bunch of different kinds of law, and it is really hard. So I love you. I want to be around you. I want to do what you're doing. I mean, it's amazing. Yes. You know, like what you're doing is amazing. And it's true.
It's amazing.
This is what I tell people. So I do a lot of the consultations, right, before I take on a client. And I say, as soon as you hire a lawyer, it's going to ratchet up the emotion, the tension, you know. And so I used to do mediation, and I 100% want to go back to that, because both people come in and you're like, look, maybe you're not going to be friends, maybe you will, but at least you're making decisions together. I mean, you spent how many years living together, being together? Why do you suddenly have to do it this other hideously ugly way?
And I think they're programmed. I really do. That's what I coach my clients on and in my consults. And I used to be softer in saying that, but I'm not soft about it anymore, because it's a truth. It's like the human consciousness, because for generations of time, people have gone to court and hired an attorney and fought and spent tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and their kids are negatively impacted and they hate each other. And so this is like just the vibration of divorce in the human consciousness is that's the go-to. Like, oh my gosh, I'm getting a divorce. It's a failure. It's shameful. It's going to be awful. And then they do that. And it's like divorce, as we all know, right? And I don't know, have you both been through a divorce?
I'm divorced, and okay. I did a default, so I just walked away from everything. I did not want to fight, which is why I find it ironic that now I'm fighting in other people's marriages. Right. I'm like, I want out of this.
You're like, I didn't do that for me. Why am I doing that for you?
Exactly. And Corey's been through her own separation, and her parents had a nasty divorce, right, Corey?
So you're Yeah. So, and I went through a dissolution of a domestic partnership, which was also super tricky. Because with so much legal stuff. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Anyone who's been through it or knows someone who's been through it, it's just as much an emotional process as it is a legal process.
Yes.
And the problem with the courtroom, well, there's a few, but one of the problems.
Give us all. Tell us all the problems.
Let's talk about it. So one of the problems is they only deal with the legal, because that's all they're equipped to do. So while all the pleadings, all the motions are fueled with this emotion, the people in that space have zero guidance regarding the emotional journey of divorce. And maybe their attorneys, like it sounds like, Tracy, you're trying to help them through that. But then we have the second problem, which is that they're completely disempowered. They can't even speak their truth. They can't speak their voice. They have someone else talking for them, their attorney. So that's being taken away from them. And then you have this judge who, and I know a lot of judges who are amazing, but I think that the human consciousness, just like regular people who are not attorneys, they think that this person is like, ooh, the know-all be-all. Like, you look so important up there, wearing your robe, elevated at the front of the courtroom. Like, you must know better than I know. And so they're completely disempowered from their ability to make decisions about their own children. It's like, it's the goofiest, craziest thing where people are going into this broken system where you have two attorneys too. And again, I am an attorney still.
Right.
They're billing in 6-minute increments. They have their own lives and their own families. This is not their life. These are not their children. This is not their marital property. It has nothing to do with them. For them, it is a job. It's their case. And their ethical responsibility is to serve their client's best interest and their client's best interest only. So they can't even look at like the effect that it's having on the children or on the relationship when there are children. And this is like a forever, it's not like, it is a forever relationship. They can't look at that because they must just like have this tunnel vision of I need to do the best interest of my client. So even when attorneys are trying to help their clients in that system that is just so fundamentally flawed, I think it's necessary for maybe 5% of cases. Like cases that have like abuse. Or financial like abuse, like any type of abuse where they cannot work together, they need to be in there. And that's fine. Because if we could get 95% out, then, like you know, from going to court every morning, Tracy, then the judges could actually read the case file. Then they could actually be on top of what's going on because it's not, and it's not the judges that are bad. There's only a certain amount of time in a day. Like
and you get 1 hour for hearings with children involving children's lives, right? Yeah.
I mean, there's just no way. There's no way they could keep up on all of the cases. Like, there's just no way. So the system itself is just it's so gross. And I really think that we've outgrown it as a human consciousness. Like, the clients that I'm attracting to Solace now are so open to looking at this differently where, you know, I'm walking them through, you know, an exercise of recognizing like your spouse is the only person in the entire world who can reflect to you what your soul came here to learn and what you want to heal, you know, in this lifetime. And so even things like that, like even just a year ago, you know, I wasn't talking about this stuff a year ago. But something has shifted in 2025. The energies are off the charts. We just had that full moon eclipse. Like, I really don't know what's going on. My guides are telling me to take really good care of myself, so I'm taking really good care of myself. And they're telling me to be patient, so I'm doing those two things.
It's so interesting because Corey and I met 4 years ago, and I was never into any, like, psychic or tarot card or astrology or anything. I was much more, you know, I was very buttoned up police officer type of human being. And we have gone into all of that. And for you to say that, like, and I do, you know, I came into it as a family law litigator having that background already. So I do talk to clients about it, but then it's the opposing party, right? And I'm like, gosh, all my cases could settle. And that was the thing my managing attorney said last night. You have to go forward. You have to start every case with the mindset that it won't settle. And I'm like, that is so, well, and that's so like against my belief system, right? Like, and there's never sitting down. I think we keep talking about all this stuff of divorce. Like, when do you choose an attorney? How do you do this? You decide to get divorced. And that's the thing. My thing now is if people tell me they're getting married, I'm like, oh my Lord, it's $98 to get a marriage license. It's like 10 to 15 to 20 grand to get out of it, and hatred sometimes, right? And so, like, we just talked about that the other day. Like, there's the emotional part of divorce and there's the legal part. And you have to separate those two, and you need two different people to help you unless you're going with your model. And so I love your model. So explain how you can. Like, are people receptive to that? Like, are they coming to you together as a couple and saying, like, we don't want to tear ourselves apart while we get divorced? Like, we want to be divorced, but we just don't want to destroy ourselves in the process.
Yeah, sometimes it's together. I love when it's together because the energy, I just love when there's recognition, you know, by both people, and usually one person is the person driving it. But when the other person is like, okay, you know, my partner doesn't want to be married anymore. I'm going to be in this. I don't want to destroy, you know, each other. I love when it's together, but I'd say probably like 75% of the time it's one. And then, you know, different people like different things. Like at Solace, I have a Solace client emotional handbook that has like different breath work and different meditations and different books that they can do. And self-care and self-love, tips that they can try out to see what works with them. And then I have a legal handbook that talks about all the legal things we're going to be talking about together. So it's funny because the feminine energy clients are really attracted to the emotional handbook, the heart of solace as children, because my kids, changed my whole perspective. And I think children can be empowered by divorce. I think they can be empowered by seeing their parents stepping into their space of being a sovereign being and the best authority of their life to say, you know what, this isn't serving me in this way, and we're going to work together to shift it to a different relationship space that does feel good. I think that's amazing for kids to model.
Go explain that. So when people think of divorce, right, they're like, the family's broken, it's broken apart, but you're saying it's just transforming.
It's just changing. Yeah, and that's the thing. So I think this conversation is of course, divinely timed, but there's been so many changes that have happened, like December 6th of 2024. So just like a few months ago, I was given a message from my guides that told me that Solace has a new marketing narrative for 2025. And the narrative is, word for word, we are in the fifth dimension, and we help people shift to the fifth through the portal of divorce, which is directly tied to what you just asked, Tracy, because now I'm helping people understand this from a soul perspective. I'm helping them recognize that this person, like the contract of marriage, is a very strong contract. Yes, it's a legal contract. And it's almost funny to me now that that's what brings people to me, because out of everything, that's the most minuscule, easiest part, because we have a Supreme Court and we have a governing law that is telling us what to do. And when we're not in court having all that chaos and two attorneys fighting, advocating for their client's best interest, when we're in this container, we can actually breathe and we can figure out, okay, so what do I think is in the best interest of our children? What do I think is fair and equitable for marital property division? And we can have conversations of that. And we can also honor that contract, the soul contract, which is truly the two people are the only two people who can reflect things to one another. And so, the reflections in the beginning of a relationship, all three of us know, when you first start dating someone and falling in love, those reflections are all light. A lot of light, like, oh my gosh, I love this person. I'm so beautiful. I'm so amazing, because that's what they're reflecting to you, and you're reflecting the same. But when we go through divorce, now they're reflecting the shadows, which is why the courtroom gets so heightened, because this person is triggering them so deeply. And what they're triggering, the shadows, these are from childhood or past lives. But childhood is what I'm focusing on. I am doing a past life regression in a couple weeks, and then I can open that space for clients. But typically they're from childhood. And these are beliefs of, what people learned love was. What is relationship? What is family? What is parenting? What is divorce? And so many other things, abundance. I mean, they're reflecting the shadows for one another, which in Solace is beautiful, because we can actually tune into those. We can take time to really embrace those and recognize those. And I always coach my clients, go in nature, go sit in nature with a journal for hours and really think about this.
Okay, this is interesting because mostly we do release a little video clip on Instagram, but mostly people can't see us, right? This is just audio. So behind you is a beautiful lotus painting. Yes. There's a little cactus thing. There's a pretty little painting. You're wearing a bright green shirt, and I imagine your space. So if you create
I have glittery nail polish.
Yeah, and when people come in. For me with court, everybody's in a suit. There's nothing on the walls. It's so ugly. It's paneling from the 1980s still. Everyone's nervous. They're sweating. They're shaking.
There's no plants.
Yeah, there's nothing. There's nothing living in there. And the courthouse, they just have those judges' paintings in the hallway. And
totally.
It's terrifying, right? Well, it's a terrifying environment.
Well, even looking at it, even the way it's set up, Tracy, the judge is elevated at the front, looking,
down on everybody there. Right.
And then you have 3/4 of the courtroom with the comfy chairs. And that's where the attorneys get to sit. And we all talk to each other. How was your weekend? Ooh, you have anything fun planned for spring break? How are the kids doing? Yada, yada, yada. And then you have a physical barrier and wooden benches typically. And that's where the people whose lives are being impacted sit.
Right.
It's like the whole thing is so messed up. I mean, right now, and this is for every mediation, I do the same. I have, so your listeners can see. So I have my crystals, right? I have citrine, I have amethyst. I have my dad and his little hummingbird urn. Right now I have, because we're talking so much about the courtroom, I'm burning sage to clear the energies of the court. And then I have incense, and I have a candle lit. I have essential oils. I have water. Like, yes, exactly.
You have like
what
a conference room that they come in, but it's like a nice one. Because even
everything that I do is Zoom.
Oh.
And I used to meet in person. Okay. So I used to meet in person, and then COVID happened. And when COVID happened, we were forced to go online. And I was very pleasantly surprised because I was like, ooh, like as I shared, the heart of solace is children. The foundation is self-care and self-love. You have to take really good care of yourself, more than you usually do when you're going through one of the hardest things of your life. And at the soul of the practice is authenticity. Like, you need to speak your truth, because that's the only way that you're not going to feel like taken advantage of or, you know, disrespected. Like, you just have to speak your truth. And when I was in my office, and it was beautiful, my office space, I loved it. You know, it was really comfy and beautiful, and all these high vibrational messages and stuff on the wall. But they would sit on a couch next to each other, and I would sit across from them, and it was like I could feel the energy from them being in physical proximity to each other. It's like, gosh, this is so chaotic and so gross. And there's memories coming up. Like, there's so many different things coming up when they're sitting next to each other. And they can hear each other breathe, which could be triggering for people when they're going through a divorce, the smells, you know. So now I do everything via Zoom, and I coach my clients to create a space, just not exactly like this, but create a space that makes you feel good. You know, if you have pets are amazing because they calm us. They're receivers of energy. So they will take your energy from you, and they will bounce it back to you, and they will calm you. And when they start, you know, I have cats. When they start purring, it's like, ooh, I'm in a really good space because they're so happy. So yeah, but it's a totally different, I mean, and even explaining this, right? Like us knowing what the courtroom looks like, it's so gross and it's so scary. And it's so like, I just had to go to a small claims case with my mom, and I hadn't been in court for years. I mean, I had not been in a courtroom for years. And so before it started, before the judge came out, the bailiff talked to all of us, and he was like yelling at us. And I was like, oh gosh, like I was in Florida. I'm not licensed in Florida, so I couldn't sit in the attorney area. I was in the back, like where the regular people are. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is how they feel. Like, this is awful. I'm getting yelled at, you know?
Yeah. Wow. I'm so empowered by this. I don't even work in your field. I mean, and I'm just so empowered. I'm like, maybe I should go get a divorce. I'm not even married, just so I could go through.
So you can go through this process.
But I do have a question. I'm super intrigued about some of the blending of the kind of the soul contract and some of the. I've done a past life regression. Actually, Tracy and I have gone through some stuff where we've found out by a number of people actually.
Life stuff,
our past life stuff, that we've been married in previous lives, that I
do not doubt that.
Yes, we are super connected.
Also, you were my mother, Corey, and I'm her spirit guide now. And it's weird because I know her feelings before, like, I just know them. Yeah. And we are as friends in this lifetime.
And we're just in sync with everything. But I think of it as interesting when we talk about like these soul contracts, and like, you know, I believe that Tracy and I do have a soul contract as friends, and we continue we've been called jumpers, where we jump from life to life together. It's been very interesting. And several different intuitive people have told us this without any prompting at all.
No prompting.
No prompting. But what I think is interesting when you're talking about, you know, kind of divorce, and you know, I've been in a couple relationships where I truly believe I was with some karmic partners who I had to have kind of some unfinished business with. And so when I think about it with divorce, you know, you're right, like this idea that, you know, the legal part is separating it. Yes, it's messy and ugly and gross, but it's pretty straightforward. But the soul contract, right? And like how do you, or what do you recommend, or, you know, anything around how people kind of, I don't know, finalize the soul contract, recognize that soul contract as they're divorcing? They're also Are they cutting ties? Are they cutting energetic ties? Like, I don't know if you get that far with people, but I'm intrigued by that.
100%. Yes.
Yeah.
Totally. Because that is what it is. Like, that is what the soul contract, when divorce happens, it happens exactly when it should, exactly as it should for every person. And it's different for every person. Like, some people are like, oh, my spouse doesn't even seem upset. It's like, no, your spouse is upset, but for different reasons. This is happening for different reasons. So it's exactly that, Corey. It's like that's what I'm coaching them is, in order to shift into a new space and be free from the energy of this contract, of this container. And like we said, I mean, when kids are involved, and even when there aren't children, the soul contract could be for the whole life. You know what I mean? A whole lifetime. It just could change. It could change forms. And so 100% we have to release, and I always do it, well, your listeners can't see, but it's like, it's a hook. It's a hook. The energetic hook into that marriage contract, we have to release that. And the only way out is through, the only way to release that is for them to each do, I mean, if they both want to release it, but one person could do it and be released from this, but they have to do this mirror exercise. They have to learn, what is this person here to teach me? What is being reflected? And think about past relationships, friendship and romantic, and think about childhood, and think about, okay, it's not what the person is doing. And that's the other issue with the court system. Everything is external. And I mean, if you want to go even further, it's kind of an issue with the human consciousness. Everything is external. This is happening. That is happening. He said this. She did this. It's like, oh my gosh, who cares what anything out external is happening? That is not why we are here. We are here to shift it internal. We are on our own journey of self. What are we meant to learn from these people? And when it's spouse, what are we meant to learn from this person? What is this person reflecting to me? What are the patterns and beliefs that I've had my entire life that has continued to give me the same result that I have within me, that is this belief? And once we can do that, that's when the real gratitude comes. And gratitude is a pillar of solace, like getting to a space of being grateful for having this person in your life, for all of the fun times, because hopefully everyone who's been in a relationship, there's been fun times, you know, like being grateful for the fun times when children are involved, being grateful for those kids, because you could have had kids with any person in the whole entire world, but they wouldn't be those kids without that person. So having gratitude for that. But then the bigger gratitude, the way that we can shift into a new space is when we get to the space of being really grateful for those dark shadows and for the difficult experiences, where we can be like, you know what, you could have been with anyone in the whole world. You could have been spending your time doing anything that you wanted to do. We each are only gifted this one beautiful life experience, and you, spouse, chose to spend time with me, and you mirrored to me these things that I needed and wanted to release. And this is, I mean, it's so much deeper than just individual. This is lineage. This is generational lineage healing, because the beliefs that we have, we created from the age of birth to 10, when we're in this theta brainwave state, and we're absorbing everything our parents are saying and doing, and the other people who are close to us. And they learn those things from their parents, and they learned from their parents. So we're really doing lineage healing, which is totally what is happening with this fifth dimensional shift, which is, oh, yes.
No. Okay. The question I have is, years ago, I would have thought you were a lunatic, right? And I would have been like, oh my God, this lady is crazy.
And now you want to be her. Now you literally want.
She's like reflecting back to me everything I want to be, like literally at the exact right time that I need to hear it. Like,
you would not believe the divine timing of this.
No, I mean, literally.
Totally.
Corey and I were about to fight right before we started this podcast, because I want to quit before we do something on Monday that needs to be done, and it's Thursday. And this comes out, you know, this will be released later. But, I mean, I literally was like practically like I was going to yell at her and say, I have to do what I have to do when I need to do it right now. And then you appeared, and you're like showing me everything that I want to be. But, like, how do you, like, you're a left brain person like me, having been a lawyer, you know, how do you shift? What happened to you in your life that opened you up to all of this stuff? Because people, when they're not processed or they haven't started to look into these things, they just think this is insanity, right? But I tell people, when you start to see this and understand this, you're so freed. You feel so much better as a human being.
Yes. Totally. I mean, I think, it's been a journey of self for sure. I think when I was a litigation attorney, I would instinctively hold, and I know your listeners can't see, but between my thumb and my pointer finger, I would squeeze that area just intuitively. And I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know why. I just knew that when I did that, I felt better. And that is actually an energy channel that when you squeeze it, it will calm you. And so when I left the litigation world and I started taking that, holistic health and wellness life coaching course, I started learning more things. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Like there's a mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual bodily self that is always going within my being. And then, a left brain person, I read constantly and I do a lot of events. And I think the biggest game changer, and I just did a podcast talking about this and I hadn't talked about it before, but the biggest game changer for me, 2014, I stopped drinking alcohol. And I have I think alcohol is, whatever people want to do is fine. For me, it disconnects me from spirit. I don't get as many messages and it opens me up to bad spirits. And I think it's kind of a way to avoid things. So I stopped doing that. But the biggest game changer for sure, by far, hands down, was September 2021 when I did my first ayahuasca ceremony. That was, and that was just, I was turning 45. And I wanted to do something special. I was going to go to Laguna Beach, and right when I hit the tickets, it glitched and it didn't work. And I was like, what's going on? And in my world, the way I live, I'm very open to messages and signs, and I go with the flow, and I work very hard to not, with my conscious mind, try to figure everything out, because that's where stress comes and fear comes and overwhelm comes. And I don't want to do any of that. So when it happened, I was like, okay, well, I'm not meant to be doing that. And I didn't know what I was going to do. At the time, I was divorced in 2019, and I was dating a hockey player, and we had gotten some kind of argument, which was typical for that relationship. And so anyway, all of this is to share. There was a night that I didn't have my kids. They were with their dad. I wasn't with Corey, the hockey player. And I was at home, and when I was at home alone, that was the only time that I could watch Gaia, the network. Are you both familiar with Gaia?
Yes,
network?
I'm like, should I spend the money and get it for this year? Well, it keeps telling me there's certain things I need to know.
100%. The answer to that, I think.
Tell our listeners, what is Gaia?
The Gaia network, it's like a spiritual mecca. Yeah. It's everything that if you want to learn about movies, if you have questions about the fifth dimension, if you want to meditate, if you want to learn about plant medicine, it just is, there's so much information on there. So because there's so much information on there, I trained my brain to believe that anytime I had a chance to watch it, whatever was being, the top thing, the biggest thing, like this, watch this thing, this is the newest release, whatever was being advertised, the big thing, that was meant for me, that I was meant, or not that it was meant for me, but that I was meant to watch that. And so, that night it was August 2021, and the movie that was being advertised, was all about ayahuasca, and it had Michelle Rodriguez, the actress, who I love because she's such a badass and she's real honest. And so I watched that and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to do this. And the next morning I was Googling, where can I do this? And it happened. My first ceremony was the weekend before my 45th birthday, which was on Monday. And the ceremony was Thursday or Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So that has been the game changer. That is that. And that is something that I'm starting to talk a lot about because, I think a lot of times before, and Tracy, like you said, if you would have heard me before, you would have been like, this bitch is crazy.
Right. Yeah.
And I wasn't even talking like this before. I think there's been some major shifts in the human consciousness. I think the third dimensional space has become so tight and almost unbearable for people. And
the third dimension is the one we live in, where it's becoming just uglier and uglier.
Totally. And all of the systems in that space do not work anymore. Like we're talking about the divorce, the legal system is broken. The medical system is broken. The education system is broken. The political system is broken. All of these systems that we've all lived within for generations of time, they just don't work anymore. And people are trying because they're so programmed. They're like, oh, but I have to do this. Right. And I think what's happening is there's this shift where more people are shifting to this this fifth dimensional energy. And the third dimension, that whole, everything that I just shared, those systems, they're ruled by, power and greed and fear. And then COVID came and now they exposed, well, they're not just interested in that. Now they want control. And that's, those vibrations are very heavy and very low. And I think that, the third dimensional space, they want us fat, they want us stupid, they want us sick, they want us scared, they want us just doing what we're supposed to do without really questioning, am I happy in this space? Do I feel fulfilled? Do I like the work that I do? Am I making other human lives better? Do I feel good? Am I enjoying this life that we, abundance is our birthright and we're meant to live this joyful life experience. Am I doing those things? They don't want us questioning that. Whereas the fifth dimension, it's the same. It's not like it's a whole new world yet. For right now, we're here together. But the fifth dimensional energies, the ruling energies, are empowerment and growth and love and connection, connection to self, connection to others, connection to the earth, which is why I'm talking about plant medicine, because plant medicine, those are medicines, and they come from this earth. They grow on this earth and they are here to heal us. And I think the programs are so strong for people when they, want to heal. It's like, ooh, I'm going to go to my doctor and get a pharmaceutical pill. It's like, that was created by humans. Like plants have billions of years of intelligence. Like they're way smarter than we are. So yeah, there's just so many changes happening, and it's so exciting. It's so exciting what's going on.
Well, and if people are able to take even some of what you're saying, they start to look at that. And I think the shift, maybe it happens for some people when they're younger because who they grow up with as parents. But I think like my experience now in my I'm about to be 55, but started when I was 47, like a total life altering transformation in my mind. And I think that's why I've only lasted 9 months in this family law litigation. And, I've done some really good work, and I feel, my clients have been very appreciative. But again, it's if you look at the system, does it serve the group of people that were together before, right? And that's the thing. It's like, it'd be nice if they can access this stuff beforehand, and so just never even get into that system. You know what I mean? By the time they're calling a lawyer, that's what I like about the consultations, because a lot of times they don't sign up because I'm like, look, there's other ways to do this, and there's other ways to handle that, right? And can you talk to that person? Can you, this is the way I'd approach it. So yeah, I agree. Like 5% of divorces should go to trial. And that's because either there's children being abused or the partner's being abused, something like that. But yeah, the rest of it, like if people could access this inside of them, if they decided that they want to look at these things differently, it really freaks people out or scares people, but it's like such a loving place to be.
Yes.
But that's what the programming is, right? The programming has been that we've been told that stuff is woo-woo and not real. And part of that is the doubt to let us to live in these third dimensional systems, right? Because the compliance of us in those systems keeps those systems operating. And if we start to question them, then that wrecks the whole thing. And so this is all that programming. And so part of it is just the narrative around it. I've been told, like, are you woo-woo? And I'm like, yes, I am. I'm woo-woo. I am,
But like you're not in presentation, right? Like you and I are both somewhat, we look like, I wouldn't say, we don't look like conservative, but we're not like hippie-ish looking, either one of us. You were in the Army. I was a police officer. I'm a lawyer. You're a professor. Like,
yes.
You know what I mean?
That's the beauty of it.
Right? Like we don't seem woo-woo, but we're open to these things that, like, I feel like if we don't have them, our life is just, I don't know, like, what is the purpose of being here? And I literally wrote my ideal job as one that allows me to help people without having to manage and track everything about them, and to like empower them, is let them take their power.
Really. That's exactly why I went to law school. I wanted to help people. I wanted to make a lot of money. That's why I went to law school. That's why I wanted to be an attorney. And then I started working in it, and I was like, oh my gosh, like one of these things is happening, but I'm not helping people. I'm destroying people. And I think, that's why I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to have this conversation with both of you. And I'm grateful that you are doing this season focused on divorce, because that, I think all it takes, I don't think it's that big of work or like a shift. I think all it takes is to help people open space to recognize that there's so many different forms of love and so many different types of relationships. And it doesn't just have to be one way or the other. It doesn't have to be married and we're nice to each other and we love each other, or we're divorced and we hate each other and we're mean to each other. It can really be, and it's so interesting. I was just talking to my son about this because I drove in rush hour traffic last night, which I don't do unless I have to. And I've never done unless I've had to. And every time I do it, I'm so confused because I'm like, why do these people do this every day? Like, why is this their program that they have to go to work Monday through Friday from 9 to 5? And these are the magic times. We can't possibly work any other time. Like, these are the magic times and everyone is working in their time. So every day during this period of time and this period of time, there's so much traffic. It's like, to me, it's mind boggling. And it's almost, I have to do breath work. Like, I was listening to Liquid Bloom, which is like a really beautiful spiritual and I was like, I have to do these things so I don't lose my mind, because it's so ridiculous to me. And I think that it's very similar to that. It's like people are just they just believe it to be a certain way. And all we need to do is have more of these conversations to open people's minds up to recognize, like, okay, like, let's rattle that a little bit, because is that really true? Like, maybe it's been true for other people, but does that mean it needs to be true for you? I mean, my ex-husband and I were divorced August 2019 in the Chicago area. We lived apart for 3 years, and then we relocated to Boulder. And we've all lived together for the last 2.5 years. And he is in a relationship with a woman that he loves, and she's amazing. And it's not, we're not living together romantically, but we have dinners together. He cooks really great food. We have dinners together. We're going to Florida today for spring break with our children, and we're all on the same flight. You know what I mean? It's like, for us, for me, it's just kind of like, well, I still love him. I still want the best for him. But I'm just not we can't be in the container of marriage because we've changed as people. We've just grown. And that's part of the soul contract too, Corey, that we were talking about, that release, is recognizing that there are other people that you have soul contracts with. And that's the joy of this journey, is really enjoying it and being free to navigate your life the way that you are being called to navigate it, following your inner guidance and truth, listening to the messages from your angels, masters, guides, ancestors, the signs that are being shown. And that's the choice. It's like, do you want to live in this space that's really super duper tight, where your conscious mind, your poor conscious mind, is being overutilized to try to figure every single thing out? Or do you want to shift into a space that's more magical, where you recognize, like, this is a gift to be here. This is a beautiful, beautiful gift. We get to experience so many joys every single day. Gratitude is something that I think it is the power. It's a power emotion. If you're in gratitude, you can't feel the bad things, and you open yourself to attracting more, and so it's like this whole shift of the way that we're living. And I love, the woo-woo, because that's, I think for sure people, you say, oh, that's so woo-woo. And now when people say it to me, and that's what I love about being an attorney and a successful business owner that's written a book and has a masterclass and goes and speaks. I'm speaking in Orlando at the American Association of Counselors. Last week I spoke at the Marriage and Family Therapist Conference. It's like, I'm speaking at these places, and because I have these credentials and because I live this life, the programs are in my favor. Because now people are like, oh, wait a minute, but she's smart and she knows what she's talking about. And she's actually an expert in family law, and she's been in court and she's been out of court, and she's saying all these things. And so I think the shift is happening. I think people are recognizing, that this is goofy, that let's not just be so destructive. And the people who carry the divorce stuff for years afterwards, it's like, oh my gosh, you are missing out on all of these amazing, beautiful moments because you're stuck in a space that's over. It's done. All of the things that happened in the past happened in the past. It doesn't matter what happened. It happened for you, not to you. So figure out what it happened for you. Why did it happen for you? What are you meant to learn from this? Because it happened for you to learn from it, and you attracted it into your life. So it's really shifting from this space of victimhood that is bred in the court system. You can't talk. You can't make decision. You have to sit in the back, to this space of empowerment. And I think, and then I'm done with this, but I think the heart of all of this is that so many people don't even ask themselves what they want. They don't even know that they can ask themselves that. Yeah. And that they can do that, because they don't know how powerful they are.
Right. Well, and I think about like what you're talking about. It's like there's almost like a programmed blueprint for divorce. Like when it's like, oh no, we're going to decide to get divorced. We have to do it exactly the way everybody else has done it. It means we're going to get lawyers. It means we're going to be fighting. It means that we're going to be in court. It means it's almost like you make that choice and it's like, oh, well, that's what everybody does. But I like this idea that there's not just options for divorce, but really this idea that it's for the greater good in some ways, is looking at this as, what am I, kind of how am I transforming, which kind of leads me to my question, because you talk about your book, you've got Shine, Soul, Shine. It's, tell us about that book and what was your favorite part about writing it, and what are some of the key takeaways for our listeners, if, because we certainly want them to pick it up, but get us hooked on your book. Tell us about that.
So fun. It was so fun putting it together. So Shine, Soul, Shine is 30 days of self-discovery and healing through divorce, which is everything, that we've been talking about. It's recognizing, the beginning part of it, it's recognizing that divorce is one of the darkest times of your life. And it's one of the loneliest times. It's one of the most difficult times, but we're shifting the way we're looking at that too. Like it's in that darkness that growth happens. The seed under the earth grows in the darkness. The baby in the womb grows in the darkness. And then the caterpillar in the cocoon where its stomach acids eats its body, but that's where it grows to become a caterpillar. Like growth happens in the darkness. And so the book, it's written from, there's intentions for the book. There's intentions for the person who gifted the book, the person receiving the book, and then just intentions for the divine feminine energy of our human consciousness, because the book is narrated through the voice of a divine feminine. And the reason for that is because and I'm not saying that feminine energy is better than masculine or anything like that. We all have both of those energies, but the feminine energy is very nurturing, and it's led from the heart space, and it's connective, and it's collaborative, and it's healing. And so the intention of the book is for people going through divorce to just kind of randomly pick something in the book, and then that day, that is what they are going to focus on. So there's 30 days of different things that they can focus on to really help them. The intention of the book is to help them get out of the darkness and get into the light, and recognize that the only way to do that is for them to go through it, themselves, that no one else can save them. No one else can help them. I mean, they're going to have people in their lives who are going to be amazing, to help guide them, and give them love. But at the end of the day, it's an individual journey. So that book is to help people, get through and back into the light, and then get really excited to shine bright again and shine differently, because once you go through divorce or any hard time, you're going to come out different. You're going to come out stronger. Yep. You're going to come out more aligned with yourself. You're going to know yourself so much better. You're going to have different boundaries in place. And so, that book is helping to guide people into that space of being in the light again.
I just ordered it. It'll be here on Saturday.
Oh my God. I need to get myself a copy too.
I just got it while she was talking, but you were typing the notes in, and I was ordering it.
Of course, yes.
Yes. Corey's doing the work, and I'm just,
you're fine.
Messing around.
This is good. No, I'm picking up my own copy of this book too. So can I just ask you to clarify? You said you pick like a day. It doesn't have to be in order. You just pick what speaks to you, and that's like what you should be doing. See, I love that.
I mean, that's the way that's what I wrote in the book. Like that is the hope, because I think when people do it that way, like I think reading from 1 to 30, you can absolutely do that too. But I think that's also kind of the program way of reading a book, which is fine. But that is the real juice of divorce, is it really gives you an opportunity to shatter these programs that you've been living in, and I think so when people can go through and just flip through and be like, ooh, this is what I'm going to do today, and trust like, ooh, this is exactly where I'm meant to be. And that goes back to, Tracy, what you had shared. I think it was before when we were talking about like tarot cards and, different things like that. It's like, that's part of it is embracing the magic, and trusting and having belief in it. Like, ooh, I am being guided. This is what I'm supposed to do today. And then spending your energies doing that. And all 30 days are self-care and self-love, doing things that are going to help you to feel good.
That's amazing. I can't wait to read it, and it will be helpful in the work that I'm going to do forward. And I'm going to, be contacting you because you literally are the embodiment of all the things I want to do. And I'm going to do ayahuasca in May or June. So amazing timing. Totally. And I have one question, and then Corey has one last question. But my question is, would you remarry after having been divorced and gone through this whole system?
Oh my gosh, I love, and I love weddings. I'm going to a wedding early May, and I can't wait. They're my favorite social event. Like I love love. That's why I changed my name legally to Love, my last name, because I really do. I love love. Going into it, I think there's some mindfulness that can be exercised. So that's another part of solace. Yes, a prenuptial agreement. And changing the energy surrounding that. It's not a bad thing. It's when you're in a space of love and you're vibing the same frequency, that's the best time to make decisions together. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
That's what I always say. Make all the decisions about the ending of the relationship while you're at the beginning of it.
Totally. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I love love. And I'm getting to a space. I referenced that hockey player. That was a real tricky relationship, that I'd never navigated before with like narcissist stuff. And as a spiritual person, it took me about 3.5 years to really heal from that, of being like, how did I not see that? How did I not feel that? Oh, I did see that. I did feel that. Why didn't I trust myself? Right. And so, I'm just getting into a space where I feel my heart chakra is starting to open, more. So I'm excited. I'm really excited. Good. And with our kids, with my ex-husband, Aaron's new girlfriend, I've talked to my kids and I've talked to her and I've talked to him. Like, our kids have a soul contract with her too, and she's going to teach them things that I can't teach them. She's always going to probably have Band-Aids, and, when they get hurt, she can help them. Whereas with me, I'm like, oh, I don't have a Band-Aid. I don't know where Band-Aids are. But, the same with me. Like, I feel like the masculine that I bring in is meant not only for me, but for my family, and that we all can love each other and enjoy time together. It doesn't have to be so gross and tight and stressful. It can be enjoyable.
Wow. I love your perspective. As we talk about this as divine timing, sort of, or, just the perfect timing for Tracy and kind of her crossroads, you're speaking to me in ways you will never know right now.
Oh. I know
some of my crossroads as well. So I so appreciate what you've been sharing. Can you tell, kind of as we sort of wrap up here, like for our listeners, what's on the horizon for you, or what are things you want our listeners to know about how to get in touch with you, how to work with you, what's going on next things for you?
Oh my goodness. So many exciting things. So I have my website. That's where anyone can get in touch with me. It's solacedivorce.com. And on the website, I have a masterclass that would help anyone thinking about going through a divorce. And I'm going to send you to a link for the masterclass. And then any of your listeners, I'll create a coupon for them so it can be 20% off.
I love that. I can't wait.
I just love it so much because it talks about the emotional part of divorce, but then it also talks about the legal part of divorce. So I really love kind of removing the smoke and mirrors around that space because it isn't difficult. Best interest of kids, fair and equitable with marital property. We can do this as the people who know our children, and it works so hard for everything. And then the biggest thing that's coming up, and this is something that I love that you're both resonating with this, because I definitely am attracting more people to facilitate this, because I want this to be all over the country. But I'm starting to put together, I'm doing my first one now, Divorce with Love retreats. And so we're doing virtual retreats, which is really easy for people, if they don't want to go somewhere. But we're moving towards having in-person retreats. So there will be, the vision is having, 20 couples at a retreat space, and we'll guide through, breath work and intention setting, guided meditations, going through that whole soul contract. I mean, it takes hours to really go through it the way we kind of talked about it, surface layer here, but really go through that exercise and connect with nature. And then we'll do, 4 days where the first day is kind of shattering the programs. Day 2 is the parenting agreement. So it is a legal process. We have to do legal stuff. Day 3 is going to be the marital settlement agreement, financial stuff. And then day 4 will be a celebration. And we have financial people meeting with them beforehand. I meet with them beforehand. Other mediators are helping in this space to do one-on-ones, while we're going through the journey. But I really want to shift the whole thing, and mediation is just me with 2 people, or other mediators I have with 2 people. And I really am feeling called to have a group that are going through the same difficult experience in different ways. And I feel like there's so much learning that can happen and healing that can happen in that space. So that's what's coming up next. But anyone, I can mediate anywhere in the country. That's a beautiful thing too. From Tracy, from being an attorney, we can only practice in one state unless we take another bar. But as a mediator, I can do it anywhere, and everything is virtual.
My God, I'm already sending you my resume. That's what I'm doing right now.
Oh, good.
Corey's gonna wrap it up, but
I know.
Get me on board.
Tracy's already counting down the stuff. This is fantastic. I mean, I'm just so excited. I'm going to order your book. I couldn't do it because I was in the middle of taking notes for our podcast while Tracy's ordering the book. But anyways, this has been so great to have you on. I mean, we could just talk for hours. I really want to revisit some stuff with the soul contract with you on a much deeper level, because I really am fascinated by the kind of the changing or the transformation of that. And so maybe we'll have you back on.
I would love that.
We have a couple other series coming up. We have them already slated in the queue, and I'd love to keep you on speed dial for that for sure.
Totally. Oh, I love both of you. This has been so fun. You're so cute, and I love that you have a soul contract. I can feel that so strongly. It's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it's so fun. We actually talked about doing a whole season of just her and I exploring our soul contract. Yeah. And each episode we bring on a past life regressionist, we bring on intuitives, and we talk about how we've known each other over time and how our.
It's that profound. We've had some crazy, we shouldn't even say crazy, just because they're supposed to happen, but things that were oh my God, I can't believe that happened, including involving other people, in particular a person who I think killed me in a past life. And I mean, when I told that person, she got chills, she almost vomited. When you usually tell people, they're laughing. I've told people that story, and they're you're crazy, on the floor laughing. But when I told that person, and it just came out of my mouth, I did not plan this. I did not know. I'm you killed me, and I'm releasing you from that. And this is a person who had adopted, or adopted and fostered 18 kids right now in this lifetime. And since that's happened, she stopped. She's just got her core group, and she stopped making her life about everybody else and about herself. Because I said, I release you. And that was what we were told by someone I was Corey's child, and I was killed right in front of her, and that caused her to die.
I died of heartbreak. And then she thinks that we've come across this person, and it seems pretty obvious that this is the person.
It had to be
the way
that we met this person. Amazing. It was so weird. It almost broke our friendship apart, and I was trying to keep that person away from Corey, and Corey was trying to save me from that person. And it got so crazy. And then when somebody said that to her, what had happened to us, I'm that's who this person is. When she came into our lives, and she didn't know anything of this.
And she's a very lovely person. Just to be very clear, she's a very lovely human. It's just when I
told her, she literally felt it in her body that what I was saying to her was the truth.
So we have a lot to explore.
We'll tell you more later.
We have a lot to explore. No, but at least our listeners are now like, what on earth? But I will tell you.
What are these three talking about? And the three of us are so in it. We're like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. Yeah.
Right. But really, like, seriously.
It's fascinating.
And I've been in 3 relationships since my divorce that were about 6 to 8 months long. And each one of those people really had to do some work that I've already done. And they would say like, oh, if I do that, I'm going to be in the fetal position. And I'm like, no, you might be for a short amount of time, but you will come out on the other side feeling so much better. And every time that I get like down or whatever, and I'm like, oh, this is like, I don't know how to do this world. The minute I open myself up to this other understanding of this world, I feel so much better. And you came into my life at the exact right time, and you said some stuff to Corey that she needed to hear. That was really, it's crazy. It's crazy that it was this morning. Like,
yes, and I know we were struggling with trying to find the time because you were going out on spring break, and so
Yes. And then I'm going to Brazil. So it's like, I just have like small pockets. And even with this, I was like, I'm doing it that day, like the day we're leaving. And even when I was at the gym, I just knew it. I was like, I am so excited to talk with these two because I felt so strongly that we were meant to talk. And I'm so excited for your listeners to hear and open the space, because that's the final thing about the soul contract too is, recognizing the way that, and I thought of it when you were both talking about this, because it's like, oh my gosh, it's so cute. Your souls love each other so much that you always want to travel together so you can help one another go through and heal. Like what you just said, Tracy, you had to release that person, like to go through and heal and do all the things. And it's the same with divorce. It's like, I coach all my clients. I'm like, the two of you, where we come from, are best friends. You're best friends, and you want the best for each other. And you had a conversation with each other saying, you know what, this lifetime, I'm going to go and I'm going to heal X, Y, and Z. And the person is like, your spouse is like, are you sure? Like, that's a lot for one lifetime, for one person to do in a lifetime. Are you sure? And you're like, yes, I do not want to keep going back. I want to do this. I want to release this. I want to be free from it. And your spouse is like, okay, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to play the part for you. I'm going to play it so well that I'm going to destroy you. You are going to be nothing after I am done with you, because that's the only way that you're going to learn this. And you're like, okay, let's do it. It's going to be amazing. And then we're here and we do it. And we, of course, don't remember anything. But, that's the beauty of soul contracts. It's like you never know what you're meant to learn from them. And if we can just be grateful for all of the people coming in and out, and grateful for our own growth and giving ourselves grace and giving everybody else grace, it just flows so much better. It's so much, not even better. It just flows so much smoother. It's not so difficult. And when you go through hard times, you just give yourself a lot of love, and you recognize, you know what, it's a hard time. I'm going to sleep all day today. I'm going to watch Netflix and cry all day. Like, whatever I need to do, I'm going to do. So it's so beautiful.
Oh,
it's all beautiful.
This is awesome. This has been wonderful. I just want to thank you again, Jen, for being on, and Tracy, of course, for being, on and engaged and really getting into this discussion. And I want to thank all of our listeners out there and tell you that until our next episode, go out there and rock those relationships. If you liked what you heard, check out our show notes for resources from today's episode. Make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram under Rock That Relationship, and go to our website at rockthatrelationship.com for updated episodes and more great information.
Thanks for listening. Now go rock those relationships.